Okay, so thanks very much, Terry, for the introduction. Just to emphasize a couple of points that were there in the CV, as it were. I am coming from 29 years of experience in the world of vibration, and there are people who accuse me of being a vibration knocker and being anti-vibration because I preach a simpler way. But I say this and I do this from a history of experience, which I'm quite happy to prove and to justify. So if I stray during the course of this morning into saying that this technology is better than that technology, or this way of doing it is easier than that way of doing it, I'm not saying that because I'm standing here teaching you about ultrasound. I'm standing here because I actually believe it and can prove it. So vested interest is something we'll come on to in a minute, but I thought it was worthwhile pointing out that vested interest in terms of the technologies. We're going to split this 4 hours into 4 bite-sized chunks so that you don't have to tolerate listening to my strange accent for more than 3/4 of an hour or so. And so the first part I wanted to do was probably build a little bit more on some of the discussions that Terry led yesterday about what is CBM. So first of all, who's an existing practitioner of some form of condition-based maintenance? Okay, so I can assume the rest of you are either already asleep or newbies, okay? So, do you feel that the whole concept of condition-based maintenance is uniquely associated with rotating machinery? Hope not. But how many of you who put your hand up before only use it on rotating machinery? None of you. So you all use it on things that don't rotate as well, do you? Very good. Because the general perception I find is that CBM equals vibration monitoring equals rotating machinery. So you're already amongst the illuminated, the Illuminati, in your perception. So I think that's a good thing. Expectations are an interesting point when you're trying to set up a program of this nature, and trying to set up a CBM program that's going to last is quite important. It may be some surprise to you, but not everybody has the same expectation of what a program is going to do and what a program is going to give. And unless you can satisfy everybody's expectations at every level, your program is doomed. It's destined to mediocrity, which isn't really where we want to be. So I thought it'd be worthwhile having a few moments just thinking about some of the expectations that we have at the different levels. So first of all, upper management. I find myself that there are two divergent sets of upper managers. There's the positive one and the negative one. The positive one are saying, well, this should save me money. This should save my company money. This should improve my reliability. It should improve my productivity. It should reduce stress in the workplace. It should maybe even improve product quality. But then you have the other side of upper management. Don't believe that. It's rubbish. Show me. Show me the evidence. I make pink wobbletrons. Don't show me the result of data that's been produced on blue wobbletrons. They're different. Show me how it will work in my industry. See? You can't. See, I'm not convinced. It's just a big white elephant. You're going to make me buy all this stuff, and 2 years from now it's going to be in a cupboard. No, forget it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Now, if that's what's going on at the top, what chance have you got? Then you've got middle management, the classic go-between. These are the people who have to sit in between the people that do and the people that think they do. Work out which way you want to be for yourselves. But these have to be the people that interpret the demands and requests of upper management. But they also have to be the advocate for the people who are on the front line. And they have to be the advocate for culture change. Now, I highlighted that in red because it's a particular favorite subject of mine, is culture change. How many of you have been through any sort of culture change program in your company? One or two. Good. Okay. I'll ask you a little question about culture change and a little challenge, depending on how you answer it. How many of you first arrived in this room for the very first time yesterday? Most of you? All of you? Okay. You sat somewhere. You came in today. Where did you sit? Like going to church, yeah. This is my pew. Why are you there? But why did you do that? But it's no different from that one. It's no different from that one. You always sit there, so there's no chance of culture changing you, is there, Terry? So a little test for tomorrow morning. Don't sit where you're sitting. Sit somewhere else. And tell me how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel. Just try it. Because if you can't culture change in something that you've established in 4 hours, how are you going to culture change something that's been established for 40 years? You have no hope. But that's the way we as humans behave. Culture change. People say, oh yes, change of culture, this, and this. We're going to do this and this. We'll have this consultant in and this consultant in, and we'll culture change. No, you won't. People bury their heads. Has it blown over yet? It's the flavor of the month. It'll go away. Just keep on doing what we're doing and hide away when somebody comes around, and we'll be able to carry on doing what we're doing. That's most people's perception of culture change. So try sitting somewhere different tomorrow and tell me how you feel about the change of culture. Some people will feel uncomfortable. Remarkably, you will feel uncomfortable even if you like sitting there, well, sit there instead, just swap. And you'll still feel uncomfortable. A very, very interesting thing. But when we're talking about culture change, we're talking about these things like saving money. But saving money is a very, very interesting problem if you're a middle manager, because you only have a budget. And budgets are the enemy. But you're still also trying to do the same things as upper management in terms of increasing reliability and productivity and reducing stress and improving quality. But budgets are the enemy. And there are lots of reasons why budgets are the enemy. Let me give you a simple example. Compressed air leaks. We'll talk a bit about compressed air leaks later and how important they are. But compressed air leaks will save any company. Dealing with your compressed air leaks, dealing properly with your compressed air leaks will save any company a fortune. Now, who pays for the surveys? Maintenance department. Who pays for the repairs? Maintenance department. Who buys the equipment to do the inspections, maybe? Maintenance department. Who provides the labor? Maintenance department. Who gets all the savings? Everybody but the maintenance department. The energy manager gets them, or it just goes straight into the business. So I expect maintenance to cough up all the money and to fix all the air leaks and to do all of this out of their tight budget, which every year the senior management keep on trying to pare down a little bit. I expect maintenance to do all these things, but I don't give them any reward. They carry all the burden of the cost, but they don't get any reward. So guess what? It doesn't get done. No, don't tell me about air leaks. I'm not interested. It costs me money. But you're saving a fortune. No, I'm not. Somebody else is saving a fortune. I'm just spending it. I had a clear case of this last Christmas at a pharmaceutical plant where the plant had decided at one level that they were going to close down completely and they were going to shut off the electricity because it was a huge saving. But some people were saying, that's stupid, because if there's nobody in, this is a perfect time to go and fix your air leaks, but we'll need to keep the compressors on. Oh no, can't do that. My budget's already hard on my energy, so no, we're switching the power off. This argument went on for 2 weeks, and it eventually had to go up in front of someone who could see a bigger picture, who said, this isn't about budgets, this is about the company saving money. The power to the compressors stays on, and we will have people in on overtime, and we will fix the air leaks. But the budgetary argument at the lower level, at the middle management level, where you have these little kingdoms all battling against each other, saying, we should do it. Oh, no, we won't. This was irreconcilable. It had to go up to somebody that saw a bigger picture. So this is why I say that there has to be a vested interest between these go-betweens. If you're going to have true success in your condition-based program, everybody has to see a benefit from it, not just a social benefit, not just a psychological benefit, but there has to be a real economic benefit for the people who invest in doing the work. Investment, return on investment. This is what we talk about. But if the investment is made by a department, they have to see the return. What are the expectations of the guys at the front? Well, this is new. Don't like that. It's new. Don't like new. I've been here for 25 years. I've seen new. And it goes away again, because it's no good new. We're still doing the same things now we did 25 years ago. Oh, this is going to create more work. Can't see how this is going to help us. It's just more work. It's more paperwork. Oh, I've got to use one of those computer things again, haven't I? Oh, no. More punching keyboards. It's flavour of the month, this. It'll go away. Don't worry. Some bright spark has just got a new idea. Don't worry, it'll go away. Somebody said this is going to reduce firefighting. Well, that's a problem, because that's what I do best. I'm a firefighter. This is my value to the company. What I bring to the company as one of the 25-year-long time-served technicians is I'm one of their best firefighters. I'm the guy that comes out at 3 o'clock in the morning and fixes stuff. So I don't want this, because they say this is going to prevent firefighting. Well, that's me out of a job. Oh, I don't want that. Oh, no. I'm a good firefighter. That means I'm going to be redundant. Oh, no, doesn't get my vote. No, don't like this. I'm not going to touch that. And one of the problems in this, again, is vested interest. Within your organizations, rhetorical question if you like, how many of your organizations praise prevention? And how many of your organizations praise firefighting? What goes up on the notice board? Congratulations because you didn't do something? Or congratulations because you came out at 3 o'clock in the morning and the valiant and stalwart efforts saved the day? Which one gets the praise? Which one gets the bonus? Doing it right or doing it in emergency? So unless there's a culture change that needs to be fixed. People often say to me, well, yeah, okay, but you're talking about saving money. So then you end up talking with the the financial people, and they say, well, we need to see the savings. And I go, great. Oh, this is wonderful. As soon as somebody says that to me, that's a door open. Because We're talking about accountants, and accountants can't actually compute savings. They can compute cost reductions, but they can't compute savings. My wife can. My wife goes to the outlets in Orlando, and she tells me that she saved me $300. Clearly, my wife isn't the only one who can do this. And guess what? So can the accountants' wives. I don't mean to be sexist, by the way, ladies. Because men do it as well, don't we? Yeah. We got a new car. We got a new truck. Save $5,000, honey. Really? Can I spend that? No. But we can mentally see savings, but you can't put them down on paper. And if you can't put them down on paper, how can you calculate them? So you can't show anything to the accountants. So what I always say to the accountants is, show me in your accounting system precisely how we're going to do this. If I find a problem, if I save $5,000, where is the column in the spreadsheet where I put my $5,000 saving? Where is the column where at the end of the year I can show that I've saved $1, $2, $5, $10 million? Where's the column for that? Because if you don't give me the column and you don't agree with me now how we're going to compute those figures, I'll never be able to show you savings. Ever. I can show you cost reductions, but they're not savings. Then there's the salesman's expectations. Sell the stuff because there's a budget. And what does the salesman say? Well, all you have to do is take it all out of the box. It's so easy, it's simple. Don't worry about training. It's easy. Install the software. Create some database. Take some readings. Next customer, please. A few titters in the audience. A few people have met this salesman, obviously. He is well traveled. He actually travels all around the world, this particular salesman. So what are the first steps not to take? Buy stuff because there's a budget. Take it all out of the box and don't worry about training. You install the software, you take some readings, and then you wonder what they mean. Now, there's an underlying panic when you're dealing with any of these technologies, whether it's ultrasound or vibration or infrared. There's one underlying panic. If you've had somebody do this for you on a service basis, it was their job to make the shout. It was their job to find the problem. It was their job to call the problem. They called the shot. But now you're doing it. And at one point during this process, there's a dawning realization. There's a fear that sets in. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what it means. What does that squiggly line mean? I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one now. What did he say when he came in and did that 2-hour training? Oh, now. And there's no one to speak to. There's no higher authority. You can't sometimes even phone a friend, let alone get 50-50. You're stuck. And there's this panic that sets in. I'm responsible now for making the right decision, but I don't know how to do it. Don't like this. I think we'll let somebody else do this. Suddenly, your CBM program is dead because nobody wants to take on the responsibility. Anybody had that? Anybody seen that? Similar things? A few smiling nods. What do I need to do if I'm going to do this job in a sensible way, in a more sensible way? I need to pick my team. I need a team. This isn't a one-man job. I need a team. And every team needs a captain. Don't make the captain the maintenance manager. Big mistake. Big mistake. He's too busy doing other things for a start-off. And he needs to be your friend. But you need a team. And you need people who are enthusiastic. That's obvious, is it? Maybe. I was asked in a pharmaceutical company, a world-famous pharmaceutical company, I was asked to train 60 people in vibration, in ultrasound, in thermography. All maintenance people were trained. Why? Because the unions would not let them pick a team. Everybody had to be trained. So everybody was trained. But of the 60, only 3, which turned out to be the 3 that you would have originally picked in the team anyway, ever wanted to pick up any of the equipment after the training. What a waste of money. So pick a team, make sure the people are interested. The team captain, the leader of your predictive maintenance department, as it were, or facility or structure or whatever, he has to be the person, he or she has to be the person that's doing the organizing. Not necessarily doing the doing, but doing the organizing. Organizing the setup of databases, the training, the scheduling, the reporting, the interface to the other departments. That's the person that should be doing that task. And they are a rare bird. But if you get it right, if you get the right interested person who's leading your program will not just take off, but it will soar. And it will achieve all of its objectives. It will overachieve all of its objectives. But you have to have the right leader. The people in the team have to be interested. They have to be motivated. Motivation normally means one thing, doesn't it? Money. So now we have to start thinking about how are we going to reward the success of improvement. How are you going to reward that? You have to have people on the team, unlike the ones we've spoken about earlier this morning. We need people who will embrace condition-based maintenance, that don't see it as a threat, but actually see it as a means of being better, of being more reliable, of being more productive, of the company even being more competitive, because these are big issues these days. And they have to be diligent, because we're talking about reliability. So if we don't have reliable people in our team, how are we going to be reliable in our organization? We have to have diligent people. And we need all trades. This isn't just mechanical. This isn't just electrical. We need everybody. We even need instrument techs. And we need people who are involved with steam systems. We need somebody from the boiler house. We need people from all over the place to be involved in this. Not just a mechanic and an electrician. Because it's too far-reaching for that. Everybody talks about goals, don't they? Management speak. We're always talking about, if you can measure it, you can manage it. Yeah, okay. I think there are lots of things in life that aren't measurable, but we manage nonetheless. But you can't write a book about that, so it doesn't work. But I, over the years, come across some very interesting and absolutely useless goals that people are tied into. Number one on that list, which horrified me when I first come across it, and this was only 2 years ago, there was a key performance indicator for the predictive team, which was the number of readings per month. They had to report to senior management how many of the 5,000 readings per month they had actually taken. Is that in any way, shape or form useful? No. Absolutely not. They're now slaves. They're wandering around, dragging their knuckles on the ground, worn out, taking 5,000 readings every month. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Another interesting one is the number of failures per month. This is an interesting one, I find, and it also leads into MTBF and all that kind of thing, but just to float something, one person's failure is not another person's failure. It's all very well and good talking about failures, but you have to first of all define failure. I do quite a bit in the world of failure mode and effect analysis and root cause analysis, and the biggest single problem in any of that is defining failure. You may have guessed I'm English. I don't know how you guessed, but you may have guessed. But the hair the hair. It wasn't the pink skin. But we have a very famous motor car company called Rolls-Royce. And in the 1940s and 1950s, there was, I have it somewhere, a manual, for an owner's manual for a 1955 Rolls-Royce Silver Dawn. And it said in there very clearly, Rolls-Royce motor cars do not break down. They merely fail to continue. So, let's define failure, shall we? They merely fail to continue. So, if a pump isn't pumping as much as it should, is that a failure? Or does a failure have to be it's broken down? If a motor takes much longer than normal to start up because half the rotor bars are missing, is that a failure? Or do we have to wait for it to finally cease? Define failure. So how can you define the number of failures per month if you haven't got a really good handle on failure? And then people won't be honest. Measuring downtime. This is all very well and good, but I do quite a bit of work in paper mills and printing industries and food industry, where you often have automated systems so that when you stop a machine for any reason, you have to put a code in to say why you've stopped it. And it's amazing how many times those stops are because of maintenance. Whereas in fact, there isn't a maintenance person anywhere in sight. It just happens to be that that's the most well-known code. So now you start doing an analysis of your downtime, and suddenly you see, well, there's hours and hours and hours of downtime. But it's not logged in our system. It's not showing in our CMMS system. So you maintenance people, you've been lying. No, we were never there. We were on this job and this job and this job. We weren't lying. So it's actually very, very difficult. Another famous one, of course, is parts consumption. Monitoring the number of parts that go through your stock. Very interesting one, of course, is when you have ghost stores. I remember a factory years ago, and every electrician had a stock of a few bits, and they all had frequent failure bits were in cabinets and this kind of thing. But one guy had taken it to a complete new level. He had combined ghost stores with Kaizen. And so he had a drawer in his tool chest with a foam insert, and it had one of every bulb for the entire factory, all laid out inside this chest. Beautiful job. He must have spent hours on it. Absolutely beautiful job. But parts consumption? Well, when they stopped doing this and they brought in all the parts that were in ghost stores, this particular factory didn't consume some parts for another 2 years because they had them all. So I don't think these are necessarily useful goals. What else could we do? Well, what about things like rate of unexpected failure? Unexpected failure. If I have a successful program, then I expect to be able to detect failure, and I expect to be able to pick things up, and I expect to be able to follow them along their curve to the end of their life. So a failure of my system is when I have an unexpected failure. So why don't we track unexpected failures? Should that be going up or should that be going down? It should be going down. The number of planned maintenance actions I do should also be going down, because I should be moving more and more across to condition-directed tasks. And I'll show you later a very interesting case history about grease consumption using ultrasound for one of the things it does best, namely on-condition lubrication. And I'm going to show you an interesting case history about a dramatic reduction in grease consumption. A very useful thing to measure. How much grease am I using every year? How much oil am I using every year? Very useful thing. And of course, they should all be going down. One thing that should be going up is my measurable uptime. How much more life am I getting out of my machinery? This should be increasing. So I should have 3 that are nicely dropping off, and I should have 1 that's nicely increasing. These are understandable. These are things that you can put on notice boards. Notice boards, yes, that's an interesting one. I go around factories all the time, and notice boards, every department has notice boards now, don't they? And you can see the sales figures and the marketing information, and you can see all the personnel information. Everybody has notice boards. Even the maintenance has notice boards. But what goes on the maintenance notice board? Bill's selling his Harley. Fred and Joe are organising a golf tournament next weekend. And Brian is trying to organise a barbecue. Any useful information up there? No, never. Maintenance people are absolutely the world's worst communicators. They never tell people what they do because they believe they're mushrooms. Yeah? Kept in the dark and fed on manure. Everybody believes that they're mushrooms. So the idea that maintenance can actually drive, can lead, can provide valuable input into the operation of a business, this is another piece of culture that needs to be changed. So when you're setting goals, and I think goals are a very good thing to have, make sure that those goals make sense. And make sure that those goals are understandable and will lead to things which are positive. And if you're setting goals that will apply across multiple departments and across multiple divisions of the same business, set goals that can't be cheated. Because there are all sorts of ways in which you can cheat the goals. You know, OEE. It was a great famous English politician who said in the 19th century that there are 3 types of lies. There are lies, damned lies, and statistics. Let's face it, OEE is so easily cheated. I'll give you one very simple example. One of my customers in a printing plant, they worked a 5-day week. So their presses ran for 24 hours a day for 5 days a week. Okay? Simple enough. So all their OEE calculations were based upon this simple 120 hours running time. However, if they'd had any bad runs during the week, they would lay on some overtime on the Saturday and Sunday. But it was never included in the 120 hours. So they could get to 110% efficiency simply because they had 48 hours squirreled away that they never used in their calculations, but it always made them look good. Lies, damned lies, and statistics. So once you've got in place a way to answer all of these divergent expectations, and sometimes they are divergent expectations of upper management and middle management, and something realistic for the guys on the front line, you're good to go. Launch sequence. So part of that then, the first things we need to do is we need to go through the culture changes, and we need to go through some of the quick hits. Upper management like quick hits. They like quick hits because it justifies the payback. It gives them payback. It justifies their investment. They love quick hits. The problem I find with many, many places is that they buy equipment and then it sits there for a little while and then they have a bit of training or they've dabbled in using it and all the rest of it, and they don't have the quick hits. Oh, we're still setting the system up 6 months later. Oh, we're still setting the system up. Everybody's lost faith in it now. There were no quick hits. You do the job right, you get a good implementation going and in-house training, for example, rather than public training. You can actually have quick hits during the training. I do that all the time. So you can actually have successes whilst you're actually teaching people what they're doing. Where are some of the other easy quick hits? Well, when you're dealing with ultrasound, some of the easiest quick hits are things like dealing with your compressed air leaks and dealing with your steam systems, dealing with steam leaks and dealing with your steam traps. These are very simple, targeted, almost vertical market approaches to dealing with problems in your plants. But there's huge amounts of money available to be saved in these very, very simple areas. So when you're trying to establish a program and you're trying to build up the success of that program and the profile of that program, these are very easy ways to get the quick hits. Very easy. And you can literally start that in a week. There are culture changes that we need to think about. We need to think about how do we migrate from a planned maintenance mentality to a condition-based maintenance mentality. Planned maintenance system says that those fan bearings have been in there for the last 2 years, those pump bearings have been in there for the last 2 years, change them. But you have 2 years of data that says that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're fine. They're as good today as the day they were put in. Who wins? Who should win? How are you going to change the culture so that you win? Because if you can't change the culture so that you win, you don't have control. You're never going to achieve successful growth of the percentage of condition-directed tasks if you can't stop people from doing planned tasks that are not required or even detrimental. Don't get me talking about what's a new bearing. Oh, dear me. So this whole idea of CMMS versus condition-based. CMMS is really, to a large extent, going to be your enemy, your biggest enemy, because that's the source of your over-maintaining. That's the source of your excessive spare parts consumption. It's the source of your excessive grease consumption. It's all tied up in there. So the first thing you've got to do is to get that battle right. Next interesting one. Within your organizations at the moment, do you have a measurement of fix it right first time? Do you know when you fix something, is it fixed? I have a very simple example. I was out on a customer site one day. Customer attracted me to a bearing problem on a fan. I had a look at it, said yes, it was definitely a bearing problem on the fan. And I made one big mistake. I didn't actually write anything down. I just said to one of the technicians, that fan bearing needs changing. My mistake. Back there a month later, maintenance manager sees me walking around. He says, oh, Tom, by the way, we balanced that fan for you. Sorry? You know that chopper fan you said there was a problem on? We balanced it for you. It didn't need balancing. It needed a new bearing on the back end. Ah, that'll explain why the guy spent 2 days trying to balance it then. So now, a month later, the same fan is back in the CMMS system for another repair. Is it another repair? Or is it because you didn't fix it right the first time? Do you have a system in place to track that? Or are you just too busy? Because most times people say, oh, we're too busy to do that. But you're too busy fixing the same thing over and over again. How do you find the Friday afternoon fault? How do you find the thing that's bad? How do you find the motor that really just needs putting in a bin because it's useless? How do you find those things if you're not tracking things like fix it right first time? One easy way that I find about using that is a very simple thing I call find it, fix it, check it. Find it, fix it, check it, very, very simple. You shouldn't be fixing something unless you've got data that says there's a problem with it. Measurement data that there's a problem with it. And the person who says it's fixed is not the person with the tools. The person that says it's fixed is the guy from the CBM group who goes back and takes more measurements on it and says, yes, this is fixed, or no, this isn't fixed. And this is the only way I think that you can actually truly achieve fix it right first time. So that when you come off that machine and you finally release it back to production, you know it's in the best possible condition it can be in. And you don't release it until it is. Key problem. You have to have those discussions now, at the startup phase of your program. It's no good coming back a year or 2 years from now saying, you're not playing fair with me. I keep saying this is all okay and you keep fixing it. It's too late. You've got to be in there right at the start and say, new rule. We're doing it in a different way now. Difficult. An interesting one. Value for money. I keep harping on about bearings. Don't worry, I'll change from bearings later, but it's just an easy thing to photograph and to talk about. I find a bearing. I say there's a problem with the bearing. You take the bearing out, and to the naked eye, you see nothing. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay. The other extreme is our friend here on the right. I say there's a problem. You open up the machine. The bearing comes out in bits. Yeah. Now, where is your perception point of value for money? Because you need to define this. You know, if I say that there's a problem on this one, but you can't see it with the naked eye, is this now rubbish? No good? Poor? But this one, is this a major success or is this a major catastrophe? Is this a near miss? Is this appalling? Because I would put this in the appalling category of my condition-based maintenance program. If I had a mature CBM program and I pulled out a bearing like that, I would be really doing my RCA, my root cause, to try and find out how on earth we actually managed to get to that stage. But again, it's something to think about. What is the perception of value for money? At what point was this a good call? Does it have to be visible? Does it have to be the case, and I see this so many times, you know, you've invested $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in equipment. You say there's a problem, so the old guy goes over, shuts the machine down, spins it by hand and says, sounds all right to me. Why did you have all the equipment? You know, it's just like with the infrared. You know, anybody that ever been around with an infrared camera, you must know this. You spent $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on an infrared camera. You go around, there's somebody with you, your escort, and you're looking at your camera and you say, wow, that's hot. What do? Oh, wow, yeah, it is. Why? What's the point? Why did I invest all the money if you're just going to go around with an Irish digital thermometer? You know, what's the point? Makes no sense. We need to look at all the data. All my data, it's not conflicting. My data is complementary. It should be complementary. My vibration data, my ultrasound data, my infrared data, it should be complementary. It should not be competing. I find in so many industries there's the vibe guy, and there's the ultrasound guy, and the infrared guy. And they don't talk to each other because the IR guy, he's an electrician. Nobody talks to him. Certainly mechanical people don't talk to him because he's an electrician. And he doesn't understand machines because he's an electrician. Yeah, so you don't use your infrared camera on pumps because the only guy who knows how to use the camera is an electrician. What a waste. So one of the key things there is understanding failure mechanisms, which brings you then on to talking about failure mode and effect analysis. Who now with a what? Failure mode and effect analysis. I think Terry asked the question yesterday, who's doing it? There weren't many hands shot up. But this is critical, absolutely critical to your program. What are you looking for? What's this defect this mystical defect, this unicorn that you're trying to find? What does it look like? Bless you. If you've not done your FMEA, if you've not done any failure mode and effect analysis, you're working completely blind. You're waiting for that defect to leap out and slap you in the face, go, hello, look, here I am, I'm a defect. You have no plan there. So you don't know what to measure. You don't know where to measure. You don't know how to measure because you've not done the failure mode and effect analysis. So the kind of simple, stupid comments there. Here are the keys. Can you get that thing out of the trunk for me? How likely do you think you'll be successful in achieving that? I've given you the tools, and I've told you what I want. Are you going to be successful? Probably not. Slightly lacking definition. But what's the next one? Boss says, look, I bought all this gear for you. Find me a problem. Do you see those two being slightly related? Because I do. Have you ever arranged to meet a friend? I'll pick you up on the street corner. I'm in a rental car. So you stand on the corner. You don't know what car he's driving. You know what he looks like, he's a friend. And you've got a vague idea of the time, but you don't know which direction he's coming from. So and when will you see it? When will you actually recognize it? When a car slows down, pulls into you, and you see your friend through the windshield. And that's how most people do their condition-based maintenance, because they haven't done any preparation, they haven't got their failure mode and effect analysis in place. They see defects when they smack them in the face, hopefully just before. So with FMEA, we're talking about trying to find out what's wrong. We don't have any purpose without an FMEA because we don't really know what's wrong. There's no defined goal there. So how can we improve? How can we go about doing something methodically if we haven't done that? So going through the failure mode and effect analysis gives us a couple of interesting things. It gives us, firstly, what's the problem? What does the problem look like? But more important than that, what's the best tool to find it? Because sometimes you can use 1, 2, or 3 different tools. So what's the best tool? Isn't necessarily, what do I mean by best? I don't necessarily mean the tool that's the most accurate. I don't necessarily mean the tool that is the one that will give me the most diagnostic information. Sometimes I might mean, well, which is the easiest tool? Which is the quickest tool? Which tool can I put in the hands of a process operator? Yeah? Gosh, machine operators doing maintenance. Frightening. But this is what we could be thinking about doing, surely. How do I measure my success? One of the interesting ways of measuring my success is to think about how I can categorize my planned maintenance activities. If you remember, I set up one of my key goals, which was to try and find out how many of my failures were unplanned, how many of my PMs were associated with emergencies. This number should be going down. The number of planned activities should also be going down. The number of condition-based activities should actually be going up. But can you do that today? Do you have to make some modifications to your maintenance management system in order to do that? Can you actually categorize your PMs already with a code that will allow you to look through and identify which ones are planned, which ones are emergency, which ones are condition-based? Because it's fine talking about it, but unless at a practical level you can actually do that, you need to plan how that's going to work.